Ramaphosa will be participating in a roundtable on navigating the new landscape for African minerals in New York this afternoon. For more on this now, let's bring in our correspondent, SABC News correspondent, Sherwin Bryce-Peace in New York for us. Sherwin, a very good afternoon to you. Of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa is then expected to meet with the Business Council for International Understanding. Just talk to us about what we can expect this afternoon.
Yeah, so we're taking a step away from the United Nations today, and the focus of the President's itinerary today is very much on South Africa's economy. Most, in particular, the title of his forum today is Navigating a New Landscape for African Minerals, hosted by an NGO, a non-for-profit called the Business Council for International Understanding, which is a group that promotes international understanding and expands global trade and commerce through a combination of dialogue and understanding. They organize, Unati, off-the-record briefings between business executives and senior government officials. They say, we drive impact by understanding the priorities of both businesses and governance and seeking to make that connection. It's also being hosted by a group called Prosper Africa. It's a U.S. presidential-level national security initiative aimed at strengthening the strategic and economic partnerships between the United States and Africa by catalyzing transformative two-way trade and investment flow. That should essentially lay out for you what the conversation in the room is going to be about. A lot of business executives have arrived here, among them the chairman of the board of Sasol, the board chair of ABSA, the group CEO of Standard Bank, the CEO of Anglo American, a representative from the Congress, from COSATU, the trade union in South Africa. So you can just see a very dynamic group of people that will be in the room to discuss. And among the speakers will be South Africa's ambassador at large and the co-chair of the Secretary General's panel on critical energy and for transition minerals, Ambassador Nozipho Mkakatu-Diseko, who joins me now. Ambassador, good to see you. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Tell us about this meeting and the critical nature of it.
Thank you very much, Sherwin, for inviting me to share with South Africans the importance of the topic under a discussion, which is critical minerals, because everything we do now is determined and relies upon critical minerals. But who has them is not everybody. Africa happens to be well endowed, and South Africa in particular. So this provides an opportunity for South African businesses and American businesses to see how they chart a way forward for us to have mutually beneficial relationships. They invited me here to come and talk about the report of the Secretary General that proposes guardrails and some rules for operations in the mining of these critical minerals. His main worry was that we've had mineral booms before in the world that have left African countries hollowed up and stuck where they were with disfigured economies. So he needed us to put a set of rules on the table that would ensure that the boom that we're seeing for the demand for minerals catalyzes growth, but at the same time ensures that it supports democracy and human rights.
So I want to talk a little bit more about the report that you came out with just a few weeks ago. The report is based on how to ground the renewables revolution in justice and equity in an effort that spurs sustainable development, that respects people's rights by powering prosperity in resource-rich countries. You talked about the history of mining that is not blameless. You said the report seeks to ensure producer economies are not disabled and incapacitated. How big a concern is that in a room full of business executives today in terms of the future we all seek?
Well, the beauty of the panel that I worked with to produce the rules is that it had business inside. I think that business has come to realize that human rights is good business. So they do not fear mention of human rights. What they need is to be told what is it that they should do and what is it that they should not do. The mining sector was represented in the panel and had a lot to say. In fact, as some of the actions that we've proposed for catalyzing the implementation of the report is the establishment of a legacy fund to clean up the past of mining. And and the mining sector had no challenges in the panel with all of that.
Ambassador, final question as they get started here. This is very much about understanding the value chains, but ensuring that people at source, economies at source, benefit from this new race for these new renewable minerals that are going to be central to a future of artificial intelligence and robotics. How can South Africa leverage the depth of its mineral wealth to ensure that that actually happens?
You know, South Africa is a mining country. It has the wherewithal to ride this wave and make something dramatic out of this. We are a country that is founded on mining. We have mining companies. We have the capacity to mine. But also, these companies are in a country that is founded now on human rights. They understand the game of human rights.
Right.
It doesn't really frighten them. They just need certainty and clarity on how to proceed. So there's no reason why South Africa should not benefit maximally from this wave.
What's your take on Prosper Africa, right? They call themselves the United States, offering a large consumer base, the world's deepest capital markets, and a commitment to job creation, transparency, and social responsibility. That all hasn't always been the premise of relationships with business, foreign direct investors that come into the country. This, of course, becomes critical for the future that South Africa seeks in terms of the long-standing social issues that we're trying to correct.
I think what I note in their mandate or in their objectives is job creation, which speaks to justice and equity that is at the heart of the report. So anything that moves in that direction for me, I support that.
Right, Ambassador, I'm going to let you go and take your seat. Thank you very much. We're about to get started here, Nati. I'm happy to have a quick dialogue with you just to lay out that, of course, Ambassador Nozipho Mhlakathu-Diseko, South Africa's ambassador at large, and the co-chair of the SG's panel on critical energy and transition minerals. We're just minutes away from the president's arrival, I believe. Everybody else is in the room, but let me just tell you what the president is doing later today. He will be going down to the New York Stock Exchange. He will engage more with business leaders down there.
I've got their mind.
We also understand that the president is going to be ringing the closing bell at the New York Stock Exchange later at the closing of the trading floor later this afternoon around 10 p.m. South African time. We plan to be on the floor with the South African president and, of course, bring you those